And just like that, bada boom, bada bing, we are live and rolling on Triple T number 82. 82. Holy banana peels, Batman. And for those of you tuning in for the first time or watching, this is your first recording that you decided to pick. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, and every week I get to tell you, no, I don't know everything. I just have a knack for asking questions, drilling down, and helping people find the answers one way or another. If I can't figure it out, I have a great network of people that we can bounce the ideas around on, and eventually we usually have a way of figuring things out. I also have a website, thetswb.com. That's right, the tall, skinny white boy.com. Yes, that's what it stands for. I actually got questioned about that in the last week because somebody was like, really? For real? That's what it means? I'm like, 6'4", 200. Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. So, tallskinnywhiteboy.com, the tall, skinny white boy. I also offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's 30 minutes for you to spend time with me asking any questions, going over any issues, challenges you may have. I've worked with people on depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. I do commercial, yeah. Yes, it's been a long day. I do corporate coaching. I've worked with professional athletes for performance enhancement. That's just in this realm, but I'm on profession number 28. So, hey, if you got a question, if I don't know the answer, I will let you know. If I'm not your person, I will let you know, and I will help you find the person that it takes to get your issue or challenge resolved. And stick around. The way we run Triple T, first hour, I've got 3 topics that I come up with that I talk on. Second hour is open mic, open platform. So if you're watching on the recording, feel free to join us. You don't even have to know how to spell NLP to be part of the live on-air group, because sometimes we need your question, your outside perspective, to help us put a new perspective for those that are new to the realm, to the industry, to Planet TJ. Here, that's all of the, oh, and of course, as always, because we're on YouTube, please do all of the YouTube stuff. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, click the like, leave comments, lots of comments. And if you want to share this with anybody, please do. Simply, the information is on my YouTube or my Facebook profile under TJ Zebel and also under TSWB Helps. And the link is the same every week. So if you found it once, write it down and join us every week. The more, the merrier. Being this is summer, we run a little late because everybody's got stuff to do. So speaking of stuff to do, we got stuff to do. We got topics, we got peoples, but I always like to start off with, anybody want to share anything, ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff that has happened since the last time we got together?
I'm gonna do my best to keep my chatter to a normal amount today. My voice is a little rough, but it's getting better and better, so it's a good thing. I know that you posted about tribes, and I was super excited because I actually had an epiphany about tribes. And also about word games. I know word games is a big thing in our group, and we love listening to language and talking about language. So I really had a good time with the word easy today and figuring out what easy meant to me and exploring that word and that entire world in the word of easy.
And for those that are watching and have no idea what word games are and all that above, I know we're trying to save your voice as much as possible, but as long as it's getting better, could you share a little bit of what that is for those that are watching for the first time?
Word games, as in, how are you using your words? How are you maneuvering them? How do they make you feel? And then also, how can you shift your perspective using your words? How can you also question your own thoughts and determine if it's your thought, if it's a thought that you want, if it's a thought that needs to be adapted, modified, and put through the ringer to really see if it's truly a beneficial thought for you. And that's how I like word games. I know I'm not a word ninja like our friend Elijah over here, but I do enjoy word games.
What you mean you can actually have thoughts about thoughts that you're thinking about?
And then you could decide if they're yours or not. It's amazing. And if it's a true
Yeah,
thought, that's staggering.
I've had a lot of fun with that with clients and strangers and family and friends where they'll say something and I'm like, so what does that mean to you? And they're like, the what? Well, what does it mean? You said it, but I'm wondering how you meant it. How did you mean it? And you can see the gears grinding and clicking while they're trying to go back and figure out exactly how they put that together. Just like when people tell me that they have a headache, and first thing I like to do is ask them, is it yours or is it somebody else's? And just that question alone has had a very high success rate at curing headaches, believe it or not. Oftentimes they realize that they don't have a headache. They it was almost like the check engine light on the dash came on. And they went, we got a problem. I think it's a headache. Bing, guess what? You got a headache. But when they started questioning it, turned out they hadn't eaten for a while, or they hadn't drank enough water. People are like, well, it's still a headache. Is it? Is it? Or is it a check engine light where nothing means anything until you give it a label? And as soon as you said, I must have a headache, well, self-fulfilled prophecy. Of course you have a headache. Whereas if you would have said, something is amok, I don't feel right, I must be thirsty, I don't think I've drank enough water today, would you have gotten a headache? Either way, it doesn't matter as long as you can get rid of the headache that you gave yourself, right? So, anybody else got anything they want to share, or shall we jump into the topics of the week? Going once, going twice. Here we go, going into the topics of the week. Topics of the week: making costumes, raging, and tribe evolutions. For those of you that are thinking, well, Halloween is a couple of months away, I should probably get going on this. No, that is not what I'm talking about. Making costumes is a little spin on one of my clients was talking about. She's in the wait to date protocol, doing extremely well, but finds herself going back and pining for this guy that she had gone out on one date with. And then he just kind of drifted off. And she was a little perplexed as to why she is so infatuated with it. Good looking dude, but every time I drill down and ask her what it really is, it turns out he's a 9 or a 10. He's not a king. And yet she still, today she goes, I still keep trying to put the king costume on him. And I don't know if it even fits. And it made me wonder, how many times do we not only put costumes on ourselves, but on other people? Now, this last weekend in San Diego was Comic-Con. And if you don't know what Comic-Con is, you're either not from the States, you're definitely not from California, and you're probably not much of a nerd. And I say that with all loving energies, because it is Nerd Fest Deluxe. And downtown San Diego, literally, it started off super small, and now it is so big that the San Diego Convention Center can only hold probably about half of it. It has spilled, they've had to spill it over into as many different venues as possible. And they're trying to, obviously when the scamdemic hit, they missed basically 1.5 years for the most part. But this year they were back in force, and people are like, enough, we're going. And you will see thousands of people in costume. And it always kind of cracked me up, like Halloween, the amount of people that as soon as they could hide their identity, who do they allow themselves to become? Who do they pick as their personality? And how well do they play it? Just like Renaissance Fair. I have a number of Renaissance nerd buddies back in Minnesota. They've got the costumes, and they go and they are in context. They are in their speech. Everything changes perfectly. And they can speak full old school, and yet when they take the costume off, they go back to the person, including the bad habits that they wish they could get rid of. And a little aha epiphany came in that how would you dress if you had that better job that you wanted? How might you dress differently for the king or the queen that you want to take out on a date? Because you don't know where you're going to meet them. Don't get me wrong. I like my comfy work jeans and my old t-shirt and stuff like that. But I also have to be careful because I'm married. And the reason I said careful is I don't want to slide into somebody she wouldn't have dated, or turn into somebody she would have never married. You see some people that they're working out, they're buff, they're everything, and they're working on their financials, and they find a partner and they're like, God, that was a lot of work. Whew, I'm glad that's over because now I can stop working out and I can start eating junk and you see them 2 or 3 years later as a couple and you hardly recognize them. Like, what happened to you? Didn't have to do the impressing anymore. So that's part of making costumes and realizing that that goes on for a lifetime, 24/7. And when you look in the mirror, when you really look in the mirror and you look inside, what could you add to your costume? How could you improve? Now you can do it for other people, but it will always, and I promise you, it will always be better when you do it for you. Don't go to the gym because you want to meet somebody. Go to the gym because you want to be in better shape. Don't work on your financials so that you can impress somebody down at the country club that you can't get in right now. Work on the financials for yourself. Yes, Elijah put in there, 'tis the beginning, not the end. Other people are just another part of me. And don't forget intrinsic drivers, yes. Don't take your foot off the gas just because you met somebody. And keep a close eye on them as well. I hate to say it, but always be testing means always be testing. I've said it a number of times. First time my wife heard me say that, and she's like, "Well, are you still testing?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she was hurt and offended. And I went, "No, I need to be testing all the time to make sure that we're still in alignment. I don't want to wake up some morning and find out that you're way over there and I'm way over there and we can't figure out how to get back together." And sometimes it can be a little painful. It can be a little challenging. That's part of the growth, constant growth thing. Trying to remember which one of the speakers, I know they've all kind of said it, the saying of, if you're not growing, you're dying. Always be challenged. Any ahas, epiphanies, comments on this so far, or any other directions you'd like to take that? Yes, Lynn.
I feel like you just unpacked a whole ton in there. There were like so many layers to that. Loved it. I like that she said, I feel like I keep trying to put a king costume on him and I don't know if it fits, because I noticed how many times I do that in friendships, trying to make, like, especially seeing my younger friendships or the friendships that I have when I was younger, how I was trying to make them fit into something that I wanted, or I was trying to make myself fit into something that I thought that they had wanted as a friend. I don't know what you wrote here, Elijah. I don't even know that word. Astrologian, logic at work. If you're not growing, then you're not growing, and not growing is more than just dying, in my honest opinion. I agree with that, Elijah.
Because you're still alive.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. It's like
The
when you
word
think
the word
about,
is Aristotelian,
thank you.
meaning derived from Aristotle.
I see, I told you you were a linguistic expert. But especially in trying to force yourself to grow in a certain way. And I wrote intrinsic drivers, and intrinsic drivers was something that I didn't quite understand. If you're like, oh, I want to have more money because that's what everybody else is saying, that's an external driver, unless you're feeling that intrinsic drive to go and do something. And when you tune in and you get alone with yourself and you have those conversations and you really go and you start to analyze those thoughts of, is this something I even want? Do I even really want to experience this for myself? You can then decide if it's an external driver or if it's an intrinsic one. And when they're intrinsic, they're so much more powerful because you will move mountains upon mountains to get to where you want to go, rather than just being like, yeah, it's just not for me.
Intrinsic drivers are also what I use for people that come to me for smoke cessation or weight loss. If it's external drivers, there's a much lower success rate. If you're trying to do something for the approval of others, you may reach your goal, but chances of it sticking are much lower than if you have your own values and criteria driven reason to get it done. And that goes right along with Ken Gutso's protocol for near-death experience protocol. Good question, Elijah. If you were to do this for your own reasons, what might they be?
Do you remember Ken Gutso's near-death experience one?
Yes.
I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank.
It goes right around the concept that one of the most life-changing episodes for people globally is a near-death experience, especially if they did flatline at some point during it. And they will wake up and they will do a reevaluation of their life and go, I think I'm going to do something completely different. Major personality changes, major drive differences, because it's one of those things where you completely evaluate your life, your values and criteria. And so Ken Gutso came up with a protocol to basically reenact a hypnotic near death. And when people come out, they're like, he goes, now when you look at your life, is there anything you might want to change?
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen I love the stories of near-death experiences because I do find them to be very, very powerful in helping other people realize that they want change, or that they take that inspired action and they get that spark, or they get that fire growing even more from that story that somebody shared. It does break my heart when you see those people that go through those near-death experiences that will change for 3 seconds and then go right back to everything else. And it's heartbreaking because it was a gift that they experienced. It's a terrifying one, but it was a gift. And to not take the lessons and to not move forward with it and to continue on a path that wasn't serving you as well breaks my heart.
Very much so. I had a client that came to me on it pretty much came from the clinic as an emergency call. They were suicidal. In their car, ready, prepped, everything, and had already written their suicide note. As soon as they said they had written their suicide note, I went, awesome, good. They're like, what? I said, you're at the bottom. When you are at the bottom, which direction is left to go? I said, I want you to write down the date and the time right now. Write that on that piece of paper. For all intents and purposes, you just died. You had a near-death experience. You've already said goodbye to your old life, all your friends and family, everything. You could just as well just keep driving your car to a completely different town, change your name, and start over. They're like, wow. I said, what are you going to do different? Who owes you anything at this point? I'm not talking money. I'm talking anything. Respect, excuses, anything. I said, if you had to choose between ending your life and telling everyone in your life that isn't respecting your boundaries to just F off, I think I would stand at the cliff, turn around and go, you know what? All y'all that ain't trying to help me have a better life, F ya. You can jump off the cliff. I got stuff to do. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear from you anymore. I'm done. I am going to live my life, my terms, my way from here on out. And sadly, there have been a number of relationships that near-death experience, the person wakes up and goes, this ain't my life. I'm done. But in a lot of cases, it wasn't their life. They were wearing a costume that simply did not fit and was smothering them. And if any of you remember when you were kids, especially if you're in a certain age range, there were certain costumes that you could buy that did not fit worth a dingle darn. They were uncomfortable. They didn't look good. If you grew up in Minnesota like I did, you waited 3-4 weeks for Halloween because you had a killer costume. You were going to kill it this year. And then a blizzard came and you got to go as a snowmobiler again. Yeah, yeah, because it was only like, 20 below and a blizzard. So yeah, get to go as a snowmobiler one more time. But I would have looked really good as a king. I'd have froze my butt off. U.S. Olympic swimmer. Yes, wrong costume for a blizzard. So, and yes, Elijah pointed out a really good point. In the situation where you're into everything's got to change, it's important to change special anchors while you're in that afterglow. Rearrange your furniture. I've even heard a few people say take it to the point of sell your bed, sell your furniture, buy new furniture that doesn't have any energetic anchors to it. Cut the ties, start over. Yep.
I just wanted to add a little something. to anybody who's listening and cannot vacate their life entirely or who cannot completely check out, I would strongly, highly recommend reaching out to a professional like Elijah or TJ or anyone in this group, because the costume that I was wearing in 2020 was awful. And it was because of TJ. He was there. I highly recommend.
Thank you. You didn't, well, we know you didn't have to do that, so. Yes, I've been blessed to help a number of people. I just had a free consult today with somebody who has been through, we're just going to say, some challenges. And so they're ready to change a lot of stuff. And Dr. David made a funny joke, but it's kind of, in perspective. He goes, we seem to be the last attempt. People look for us because they can't find witch doctor in the yellow pages. But as long as I get a chance, I'll give them everything I can. Because I've been through a few things myself. Right, Mom? Hi, Mom. Sorry about making you nervous a few times, Mom, but hey, made it. Still here. So, any more questions, epiphanies on that one before we try to fit in two more before the end of the hour?
I did love Elijah pointing out about change your furniture. I know Aaron had said that a while back when he came back from vacation, and that your furniture, your house has memory. And I did not realize that until I came back in 2019 from 2 weeks away, and I did not realize how much memory that the house that I live in and the kitchen that I was in had, and how quickly you just go right back to stuff that you weren't having before or before while you were away on vacation. It was shocking. And definitely moving to a new place is always great, or rearranging the furniture, changing your clothes, changing anything you possibly can, because it really makes a massive reinforcing difference, because you don't have to monitor it as much because you're getting this visual input of change around you, and it's helping you recreate, or it's helping you modify what was holding you back and create new things.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And it's another reason why I am such a strong promoter for vacations. Not just staycations, like get away and don't bring any other luggage other than suitcases with the clothes you need. Forget work. Leave the issues, the stress, the work, the everything behind, and give your mind and body a chance to live in a different environment. See the things, smell the smells, feel the feels, hug the trees, touch the buildings, eat the foods, just so that you can have different stimuli to clear your brain out a little bit from the groove that's being more into it. Which flows right into the next topic of raging. And sadly, I think rage is becoming more and more common than it used to be, especially with all of the powers to be trying to cause division any way possible. And the other night, my wife and I were up in Fort Worth with some friends and watched this simple little example of road rage right in front of us in Old Town, where you can only drive like 5 miles an hour. And 3 custom lowriders with hydraulics and everything. Even Ray Charles could see that they were a group. And they're trying to merge onto the main road. And some dude with a pickup with pretty rims and a roll bar, his truck wasn't like, oh my gosh, stand outish. But the first lowrider got in without being intrusive. The second lowrider was trying to keep up with him. And this guy in this truck couldn't handle it and had this train horn, like 180 decibels. I know I'm exaggerating, but you heard his horn go off 3/4 of a mile away, and had to be a complete Richard Cranium, making sure that the third lowrider was not going to get in front of him, all the while blasting his horn. And the interesting part is everybody on the street is looking at him like, wow, really? Really? What a Richard Cranium. And the two guys stopped, waiting for their buddy to. Now the guy in the truck is held up because he split up the group. They're trying to work their way over to get off to the side so Mr. Big Truck with the big horn and the little, could get past while he's still sitting there blaring his horn. And so somebody had reached out to me and asked about raging and about the anchors and what are some of the drivers. And I think it's a number of different things. One is obviously the opportunity or chance for anchors when we were young, whether you were allowed to express feelings or how you dealt with anger or disappointment when you were young, how you witnessed other members, whether it be parents or something like that, deal with anger, and then learning how to control your own energy. And as we were talking a little bit earlier about, is the rage your energy or is it somebody else's? Where is it coming from? Why is it so explosive? There's also, the stuff I say all the time, 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that can occur. All right, rage can be one of them. I've got all this excess energy and I got to do something about it. And where did all the excess energy come from? Now, I will admit, I'm one of those guilty people that I can stuff down a lot of stuff, a lot of energy. But you get to a point where there's so much in there that one more little thing and all of it comes out at once. And that's where you'll see some people where, they're in the checkout and their one coupon for 25 cents is expired and they lose it, total meltdown. And you're like, what? But you don't have the recordings that show the 37 different things that they had to stuff down, how much stuff they've been holding on to. And finally, one expired coupon was one too frickin' many things. And the person standing in front of me, I don't know, and I don't have to worry about their feelings. I don't have to worry about being fired or none of the above. And Fran raised her hand. Yes, Fran.
Helps if I turn my microphone on. I listened to an interesting talk yesterday by a boxer who had massive rage issues. And he was talking about the relationship between his rage and his self-talk. And he had to retrain his self-talk to diminish this rage because it was all the terrible things he was saying to himself that had this unbearable rage come up. So how does that fit in with what you're saying?
Well, that's another form of internal dialogue along with dealing with internal energy. When, there are, like with anything, there are places for rage. I mean, if you're going to be an MMA fighter or something like that, I suppose having some ability to bring out rage to give you the extra energy may be helpful. But even then, a lot of mistakes are made within rage. A lot of the fighters that are very successful do not fight within that rage context because it would be too easy for them to miss a cue and walk right into a devastating hit. So just like when you were talking, or with this person, I'm sure it was also figuring out how to shut it off when you're not in the ring. And that's where some people definitely need to reach out to people like us to be able to figure out, why is there all this excess energy? Where is it stored? How much of it is actually theirs? How much of it was actually given to them by outside sources, friends, family, strangers, the media, whatever? And that's where I was saying, I've got a feeling that a lot of the rage that we're seeing now is being fueled by outside sources, and people don't know how to handle it. I've seen people go into rage that are not hotheads, and at the end they were totally broke down sobbing because they had no idea where it came from. they just went into a complete blind rage, they call it, and there was no stopping them. It's where you'll see a lot of people that are raging. If somebody can give them a good hard smack somehow, and they're like, and their subconscious wakes up and goes, "What the heck are you doing?" So there's that, and I keep going back to excess energy. Just like when I help people with anxiety or fear, and especially anxiety, which I'm finding more and more to be excess energy, fear-based, and they don't know what the foundation is. If I can get them to A, accept that it's excess energy, B, get them to start asking themselves, what are they afraid of? If they can figure out something that they're afraid of, now it's no longer anxiety, it's fear. Fear can be addressed because you have something to work with. Oftentimes, anxiety, it's just all this excess energy. And then as soon as they find out that excitement is the same energy, if they can turn it into excitement, well, now it's enjoyable. It's usable. It's directable. So with the rage, do you know exactly what it is that you're angry about? And oftentimes it doesn't even have anything to do with the event in front of you. I mean, like, who rages over an expired coupon? The coupon isn't the issue. The coupon was the last straw. What built up to it? Why were you unable to deal with or manage the events and the energies that built up to that situation? If you feel rage coming on, learning different ways that you can deal with it. Question yourself, is it mine or is it somebody else's? Is it something that I can get under control on my own, or is it something that I need to reach out and get help with? You know, all of these things they come out pretty easy for someone like me, but there are a lot of people that simply don't know where to go, where to look for, what questions to ask. And so, like Lenora said, if you're somebody that is dealing with that, or you know somebody, have them reach out to myself, Elijah, Fran, people that can help with this. And Elijah added, do not let that dishearten you people. It's just a matter of practice. Yes. Same with anxiety and all of these, what I call intense levels of energy. Especially if they're not serving you. Euphoria is another intense energy, but most people don't get too bothered about that, as long as it doesn't, keep them from doing their job. Any other input, ahas, epiphanies on that? Asking good questions is a skill, and like all skills, requires a little attention and repetition to get good at. Yes, correct, Elijah. Lenora.
A good thing to notice is if you find that after the fact, you're thinking, I don't like that person that I just was, or I don't know what has happened and I keep doing it and I don't want it to be that way. That's enough to reach out and ask somebody for help, because especially if you go to your friends or your family, they may not know how to help you, but they may also start to judge you and criticize you, or they also maybe say like, oh, that's totally normal. If it's something that you want to change, that's entirely your autonomy to decide and your choice to decide. And if you want to change it, go right ahead and change it.
Absolutely. Fran.
My microphone again. Has anybody talked about the energetic aspect of this? Do you want to move into the sort of energy side of things, the energy that people carry around with them, and how infectious that can be and how that can affect this sort of situation? And, like going into a room where an argument's happened and how you can tangibly feel the atmosphere and how that can be transferred from person to person.
Yes.
Very easily. Could you give your cut on that? Because in my world, that's very relevant.
Yes, well, and that is extremely relevant. Not only just in the presence of other people, because energy, anytime you're within 6 to 8 feet of another person, basically you have a 6-foot aura minimum around you. So anytime somebody is within 12 feet of you, your auras are starting to intermingle. And if you've got some people with excessive, shall we say, anger energy stockpiles, you may find that just being around some people gets your blood boiling, shall we say. And there can be other factors as well, anchors, certain songs, certain movies. I know that there's a couple of movies that I cannot watch because simply watching them gets me so pumped up and so angry and in such a state that I was like, you know what? I don't enjoy that state. But I recognize it as such. And then you've got some people that blame everything about their less than optimal life on everybody else. And because of that, because it's not their fault, they have this belief that they can take it out on everybody that's causing their issues. You also have other people that their way of dealing with their energy is to blow it off on the closest person to them. And as soon as they've blown off their steam, they're fine. And they don't realize that depending on the person, the person they just blew up on could be carrying that around for weeks. Yes, Fran.
And that's what happens with mothers. The kids, especially when they're in the teenage years, to unload, and they go all over their parents or their mother. And the mother's left with this, and the kid feels fine as it goes off, and the mother's left worrying a lot. So you're right. People do blow it off on other people. And that's part of the job, I guess, of being a mum. But you love them, so you do it.
And I will challenge that just a little bit. There are some parents that would not tolerate that. And so the kids had to learn to bottle it up and take it out somewhere else, or simply keep it bottled up for way too long. Or you may have one parent that you could blow up at, and the other one simply wouldn't tolerate it. And as such, it created a family dynamic that, when I help people with relationships, guess what? That shows up every now and then. One parent, don't you stuff that stuff down. I don't want to see any emotion out of you. Or back in the old days, big boys don't cry. Go rub some dirt in it. Go walk it off. All the above. And so I'm not here saying that either of them is right or wrong, but once you turn 18, that magical year, where you get to start really adulting, but you also get to choose and start making choices on your own, and you no longer get to blame stuff on your childhood, where you grew up, what your parents were like, who your friends were, all the above, because you can make choices, and every choice that you've made in your life has brought you to this exact moment in time. Well, you don't know what I've been through. You're right, I don't. But I bet you could tell me almost anything, and if we looked around, we could find somebody who has been through similar or worse situations and dealt with it differently and are doing much better than you. And we could also do the same and see somebody who's doing worse than you. You are you. So where do you want to go from here? What would you like to change? And why do you want to change? Are you a rager? Do you want to change? Do you want to learn? Elijah, is that towards me? You want to see every emotion out of me? Whee! That could be a episode out of Sybil. But yeah, I've helped people with a lot of this stuff. And again, it goes back to, you can change. When you're ready, you can change. That's the nice thing about us. We have the ability to change. Sad part is, often people just want to be on autopilot and wonder why everybody else is changing around them. And that takes us right up to the top of the hour, which didn't leave room for tribe evolutions, which ironically seems to happen to us more often than not. We get 2 topics in an hour. But the nice thing is, the second hour is open platform, open mic. So if somebody has questions or a topic that they would like to discuss, it's up to you guys now. The only difference being in the second hour, I let everybody else on the call answer first because I want to learn as well. And then I will give my 2.2 cents. So you guys have had an entire hour to think of questions and topics that you would like covered. Oh, Fran, I hope everything is well. Emergency call out. So you take care, Fran. So good to see your face. All right. So topics, questions. What do we got? Yes.
I have a segue into what you're talking about. I feel like the Montgomery Gentry song of "Some People Change" should be blasting right now. Do you remember that song? It's such a good song.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know it, Elijah. It's a really, really good song. Look it up if you want on YouTube. "Some People Change." And so you had mentioned about when somebody had said like, well, you don't know what I've been through, and people start comparing to what they've been through. So the word that I was thinking about a lot today was the word easy. And I often come back to the phrase of, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to struggle. So that was something that I had picked up very early on in my life. And so that's why I was peeling it apart today. Why not? And when you think of, and so what I had come to the conclusion of is that it's not that it's not easy. It's that it gets easier for you the more you learn and the more you grow. You're making it easier for you. It's not that life isn't supposed to be easy or hard. You're finding ways to make it easier. Hi, Elijah. Ninja. And that's where I started to even piece it apart of what are the lessons that I could learn to look at and make this easier for me to understand. And one thought I kept thinking was that money was hard. Like life is hard, making money is hard. And I came to the conclusion of like, no, it's not hard. I know what to do. I know how to solve the problem. I know how to, it's not that it's hard. It might be some places might be more time consuming than others. But for me, it's not what one would consider hard. It's just more time consuming. So I was peeling that apart too. So any thoughts on all of this would be great.
Anybody on the call want to answer first?
I didn't really hear a direct question, but
it was more a topic of discussion. What are your thoughts on the word easy? Or is life supposed to be easy?
Life's not supposed to be anything. It's what you make it. Right? It can be easy, can be hard, can be fun, can be exhausting, can be a whole bunch of other things that I haven't mentioned.
How do you perceive it?
Me?
No. I'm saying like I follow your thoughts, how you're saying life is not supposed to be anything. Yeah.
You can make of it what you wish.
Yeah.
Or maybe wish is not the right word, but you can make of it what you want it to be. And whether you realize it or not, you are making of it something, right? So better to do it on purpose than randomly and by default. You know, better to have a active, like to be paying attention actively noticing what's happening, noticing how your conclusions and your actions and your the meanings that you're deriving are affecting your environment, and then how the response from that environment then in turn affects you. And obviously, if you want to change the way the environment is towards you, then the easiest way to do that is to change yourself rather than try to force everybody else to change. And the ironic thing, I've said this before, the ironic thing is that once you change yourself, everybody else must change to accommodate the new you. So easy is, for most people, something they, I think, desire. They desire life to be easy. They desire the challenges and the goals to be easy. But then the question is, do you really want it to be easy? Like, then you get into this whole like, well, if it was too easy, was it even worth it? You know, like, did you, if it was too easy for you, then did you grow? You know, were you challenged? And I'm not saying that it should be one way or another. I'm just asking various questions to get people thinking. For me, sometimes I like easy, sometimes I like not so easy. You know, there is a lyric from a song that I like that says, winning feels better when you take a little damage, right? Don't give it to me easy. I like a little challenge. Winning feels better when you take a little damage. And I subscribe to that a little bit, but not always, you know. It kind of depends on where I am and how I'm feeling. And you know, I'm human like everyone else, so I'm a little bit fickle. I can change the way I often change in how I'm feeling, and then my interpretations change completely, and depends when you catch me during the day or during the week or whatever, I'll give you a different answer. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, sure. If you want easy, then make things easy. You know, set yourself, if let's say there's a task and it's not easy enough, then what's a smaller subtask that you could do that would, you know, like what's part of a step? Like, let's say you get stuck on step number 1, you know, step 1 is to grab your running shoes and go for a run because you want to become a runner or you want to become more active. Then, you know, going for a run is too hard because you wanted to do it, but you didn't do it. So, okay, step 1 might be just put your shoes out at night so that you see them in the morning. You know, you might still not go running, but it will put the thought in your head when you see them, and that's progress. So, you know, you can always make it easier if it's not easy enough, and you can always tune it to be slightly less easy if you think it's, you know, it's not having the effect in terms of growth and challenge and things like that, if you're that way inclined. So as always, the answer is it depends. You know, depends on context. But that's kind of where I stand on easy. I like easy, you know, I like simple, but not always. You know, sometimes easy is boring. So it depends on what it is.
And it goes right to another one of my sayings. Nothing means anything until you give it a label. And so it can be hard, or it could be challenging, or it could be a potential for growth. It could be a learning opportunity. There's so many different ways that you can label it. And they all have a different feeling, a different look. My mom will verify. My whole life, I've needed a challenge. When things were too easy, bored, squirrel, try something different. And yet I knew some people that was good enough for them. And I had to learn to not be offended by their lackadaisical approach to things. And I think it also depends a little bit on your personality. Some people say I'm OCD. I say I'm CDO because that's alphabetical the way it should be, but not on everything. CDO has its place and time. If I'm going in for surgery of something, I want a doctor that's CDO. If I'm having somebody make me, breakfast or something, not quite as much. I want them to have a little fun. Make me something good.
Good.
Yeah.
I had this thought that came in, and I don't know. Anyway, I had a thought, and it was everybody has their own perception, and because I wasn't letting go of this perception, I was having a conversation with, I think it was God at the time, that I was like lost in this thought, and the response was, I put so many people in your life to help shift this perception, and you let, how many people, one, two, a handful of people, hold on to this perception your entire life, when I lined up how many people for you. And I gave you the tools that you needed. I gave you mind and body and the tools that you needed to help you get to where you needed to go. And you still wouldn't let go of this perception. And I was like, well, boy, isn't that a lesson to learn, that it's based on people's perceptions. And I love the one that you have said it so many times. People are always doing the best that they can with the tools, time, knowledge, and energy available to them. Or even just people are always doing the best they can. If they did know better, they would do better. Or if they did know better, they would do better. Yeah. And I find that to be really powerful in helping let go of that component that was like, well, you gave this to me. And if you're having a conversation with somebody else and you're like, you gave me this thought, I am this way because of you. And they go, I didn't know any better. I was just doing what somebody else had taught me. And I didn't think to question it. I had no idea. And I found that to be really, really powerful, and almost like you can feel like the entire matrix starting to shift into a completely different way. And I think, Elijah, you had mentioned also that when you change, the people around you change, which is something we definitely all know. And oh my God, that it was completely true. And I didn't even think about that. When I first heard on YouTube years ago, like in the David Snyder archives of like 2013 videos, and he had said, people around you will change you. I was like, no, that's impossible. Holy crap. That was completely accurate, which then results in tribe evolution, which we didn't get to teach.
Also, understand a lot of your perception of what is hard is taught to you. And people forget to question, well, why was I told that it's so hard to make money? Because it was handed down to me through the filters of my tribe, parental units, teachers, whatever, where I grew up. Well, if you grew up in a very low income, poverty level area, and the commonality thinking is making money is really hard, then you're naturally inclined to accept that. And once you realize that, well, why? I mean, I have a brain, I've got a body, I have I have access to the internet now. I've got access to schools. I have access to all of this. Why is making money hard? And I've had a number of clients that I've ran through this, and they came out and they're like, "Oh, it's hard because I was taught that it was hard." Yes, Elijah.
So I agree with this completely. I want to add that you might not necessarily know that you were being taught that, and the person who taught it to you might not necessarily know that they taught it to you. And I give you an example of how that's possible. If you've ever watched like a little kid running and then they sort of trip and fall and, quote, hurt themselves, right? Because you don't know if they're hurt or not, actually. The first thing they do after they fall is look at their parent or their guardian or whoever's looking after them. It's the first thing they do after they fall is they look over, and it's only after the parent goes, that's when they start crying.
Yep. 100%.
Right. So if, like, I've done this with my niece where she fell and bumped her head, and she looked at me and I started laughing, and she started laughing too, right? And it's, oh, are you okay? Does it hurt a little bit? Does it all right? You know what I mean? And we shook it off in a different way. Okay. But that moment, because when you're young, like, your parents are everything in your life, right? They are the example that you're mimicking and learning from and copying unconsciously as a child. When they look at you and they give you that, are you okay? Oh my God, you fell. No, let me see. Is there a lump, right? Or a bump or whatever. That's a form of programming.
Yes.
Right. So it's not through ill intention. Do you know what I mean? The parent doesn't want to program you in a negative way. They are just showing that they care and doing what's natural to them. Unfortunately, we haven't been taught that sometimes what is our instincts might not be the best way. And if we learn and we can sort of intend and be a little bit on top of ourselves, if you like, then we can do things in a slightly different way that might help better the the new generations that are coming. But it's nobody's fault, because people just didn't know. The level of the science and the research and the studies hadn't been done. But now, I mean, neuroscience and psychology, quantum physics, all that stuff is like so far, like, it's literally improving every day. It's at the very forefront of where it's going to be, and it's continually getting better and sharper and improving. And the knowledge that's coming out of it is fantastic and very empowering. The science is finally showing, like, I mean, not just now, but like for the last 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, you know what I mean? It's finally starting to show things that some of us have been saying for a long time. Some of the occults were saying it, some of the religions were saying it, some of the, you know what I mean? The wise men, wise women were saying it, but now there is some substance to it that can be proven using scientific method, and that's helping bring and spread the knowledge much more easily, because people in general are quite accepting of scientific research.
Yeah, the power of language has always been discussed, but I think you're absolutely right, Elijah. It is coming into the light in ways now that are way much farther advanced than they were, even, like you say, 10, 15 years ago, much more accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And I right there with you on kids. Mine was always a kid trips, and the first thing I do is, good save. And they're like, oh, okay. And they get right back up and they go at it. And I've witnessed the other, exactly the way you say it, the kid trips and the parent, lovingly, unknowingly, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? And the kid is like, I must have hurt myself. And they cry.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a learning. Did anyone ever have like a cut on their finger or their arm or something and didn't know that they had a cut?
I was going to say that.
And it didn't hurt until you noticed it.
Exactly. You're like, why is my leg wet?
Like, and it's like there's this moment, because I've meditated on that and gone back and trying to figure out what happened in that moment. And what it was that came up was, I noticed I was cut. I noticed I was bleeding. If I'm bleeding, I must be in pain. And that's when the pain started.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But actually, before I noticed the cut, it was probably there already for at least a half an hour.
Yep.
Or more. And it didn't affect me in the slightest because I didn't even know it was there. Right. So these are things that are, I would not say they're hardwired in, because they can be changed, but they are very deeply wired in, because it's been just the way things have been your whole life since you were little, that it's a little more, I don't want to say difficult. We come back to this word easy, and how easy it is to change it. It can be very easily changed if you are open to it being easily changed, right? If you're not so open to it being easily changed, if you think, oh my God, it's 40 years of programming and I'm going to have to undo it, then maybe it's not going to be so easy for you to change. But I would be, I wouldn't be surprised if, 30, 40 plus years of programming can be reversed and changed completely in, a matter of weeks or months. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I love that Elijah pointed out about the research, because there is so much phenomenal research coming out, and that has been out for years. And one that is wildly exciting is that there's research coming out about the use of holographic memory resolutions, HMR, in patients and clients with chronic pain. And it's coming out in a couple of months, but it's been really exciting to hear the behind the scenes stuff that's been going on about it. And it's super powerful.
And I wanted to also tag on to your question or your perspective on easy versus hard. And like you said, some things are just better if they require more effort. I'm not going to say that they're hard, but if you're, for instance, a house, an easy house, a little, cookie cutter, blah, 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 slapped up, 4 walls, couple windows, a door, and 1 interior wall, easy. Same size house, a craftsman house, much more challenging, much more thought, more time to do. But when it's done, which one is the preferred?
Totally.
It's the one you had to invest in most.
Well,
and that's what it is. It's a principle of investment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's so interesting because the way that this came up was, if it was easy, you were lazy. And if you were and then it was supposed to be hard, you're supposed to be putting in more and more and more effort. And to the point that this effort level was never able to be achieved, attained, or satisfied. And it was just very interesting, especially reflecting back on a variety of things where I don't think getting in the car and going to the store is a big deal. But there are people that will say, oh my God, that's so much effort. Like, that's so hard. And it's like, it's getting in the car, or they're surprised by certain things. And I'm like, well, they think that's hard and I think it's easy. So I just keep playing with this perception of what's easy and what's hard. And it really came down, the reason it came down is because I was shifting a lot about money, and you don't get something for nothing. It's not supposed to be hard, and you'll never have enough. Those are like really
How
key
could
factors.
you not have enough?
Well, those
What
are
more
really
could
key
you want?
factors in money mindset. And that's
Oh,
where I
like
started
you'll never
peeling
have
it
enough
apart.
money?
You'll never have enough money, no matter what.
No,
And
I disagree.
well, here's the
No.
thing. If you think you'll never have enough, it kind of creates quite the void in you. And you're thinking, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough. And this
Right.
internal driver can never be
Believe it or
satisfied.
not, you are speaking a world into existence.
Damn.
And you
Times
also,
Elijah, I feel like you should just mic drop.
and you also made a very, very common programmed statement. Nothing good comes easy.
Oh, you
Just
don't get anything for nothing. That was
You
another
don't,
one I
yep, you don't get anything for, what do you
That's
think? Money
also
grows on
not
trees?
true.
We're not like them. If you know, all the above, there are so many statements. In fact, one of the classes that we had, when we got people rolling on all of the statements that they had heard growing up, limiting statements.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? I'm a bank? What do you think? Money just grows on trees?
Well, it's
All
interesting.
above.
Yeah. Cause like then I'll listen to money affirmations or something, like just an audio meditation, whatever the case may be, or even creating my own questions. And I have an inner voice going, that's a lie. This is bullshit. They're lying. And that's a really tricky thing to navigate when you're hearing one thing and you know it's not your voice. And then you're also feeling these, no, I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that.
That's your dominant thought, repelling against it.
Now you understand why
That's the
this
one.
is
That's
deeply
the one
under
you
the
want to
microscope.
change, right? That's the one you want to change.
Yes.
Right.
One thing I actually, while I was clearing some God only knows what, I found something that shifted for me, and I thought you guys might find it interesting. So myself came into the picture, and then another version of myself. So there was like one version of myself protecting my younger self, and then this other version of myself. So like two full-on adults, one being taking care of business and the other one being the protector. And I thought that was really interesting because I've had one and I've brought in another person. I've never actually split until today. So I thought that was really interesting.
He made like a banana. I was gonna say something and I kind of lost it. It'll come back to me in a minute.
While we're on the topic of income, that's where, through some of the trainings and stuff that I've attended, I came up with the protocol for financial thermostat. And we all have our own financial thermostats. And if you understand how a thermostat works, if the room gets too hot, it'll kick on the AC, cool it down. If it gets too cold, it'll kick on the furnace, heat it up. Well, when you think of it in your financial thermostat, we all have our own financial thermostat. If funds get too low, the furnace kicks on, puts a fire under our feet. We don't want to sleep underneath a bridge. We get out and we hustle and we make enough money. But I also, more than that, I deal with a lot of people whose upper range financial thermostat is set too low. And they will start to self-sabotage when they start getting to that upper level. Same reason people that win the lottery, a vast majority of them within 2 years have gone through all of that money and are right back where they were before they started because they didn't change their financial thermostat, and their conscious and subconscious are going, this is way too much. We don't know how to deal. This is not who we are. We don't deserve $2.5 million, and they'll burn it up just like that. Or they'll get business opportunities. I had a corporate client that I was working with, and he was able to bring 5 businesses up to 2.8 million in annual revenue, and got hired on for another business. But the deal was if they could get it up to 10 million, they had a buyer that would buy the business. And he understood NLP and these things, and was getting freaked out because he was quickly bringing it up, had it up to 2.3, and was terrified that he was going to hit 2.8 and hit a glass ceiling like he had before. Well, when we went in to investigate, turns out his 12-year-old self had set the financial thermostat at 2.8 million because that was a lot of money, a lot of money. Any more than that, you're just being greedy. Till we walked him through how many other people could you help if you could hit 100 million. And when his 12-year-old self saw that it wasn't about greed, but it was ability to build a business that could sustainably help and employ enough people, that his 12-year-old went, wow, okay. And shortly thereafter, he had already bypassed 2.8. Last I checked, he was up to like 6.8, ahead of progress, and looking like they were going to be able to sell to the main investors. So again, what's hard, what's easy, what are limiting, what kind of programming, when did that come into play, all the above. Anybody else got any input on that topic? Ahas, epiphanies, questions, input? Anything? No? Silence? Squirrels? Do we have any other topics or questions that we want to bring up? We've got, what do we got? We got 28 minis left. How you doing, Lenora? I know. Somebody was kind enough to share a bug, and she took it literally, and
Evolution. Yeah, let's go try evolution.
tribe evolutions. Being this is your guys's hour, I will bring up the quick concept of it and then allow you to take it where you would like. Tribe evolutions I brought up because of the concept of how we, as humans, tend to not want to lose people or offend people or whatever. And it was interesting because one of my clients was bringing this up where as they grow, as we just brought up, as you change, people change, or they don't. And when they don't, you have to start looking into, are they building me up or tearing me down? Are they helping me move forward, or are they trying to pull me backwards?
Never
And
gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Sorry,
yes,
I had to rickroll you. Sorry.
no,
Oh my God,
exactly.
that's such a good song.
Good anchor. But I said, when you look at some of your friends, how did you meet them? How hard was it to meet some of these people that are now friends? And what kind of attempt have you made to reach out and meet new people? Where and I started applying the wait to date protocol in a way towards building your new tribe. You still get to keep some of the old tribe that are in alignment with who you want to become. But even circling around to the making costumes, are you being the person that represents who you want your tribe to be? And as such, are you journaling? Are you looking inward? Who do I want to become? Who would surround and support that person? I've said oftentimes, if you're the smartest person in the room, time to change rooms so you can continue growing. And this goes right back to tribe evolution. And it doesn't mean you have to completely ostracize or, walk away or never hang around the old tribe or your old buddies. But just as the same with the wait to date protocol, always be testing. Are they talking about, are the topics of discussion things that are in alignment with who I want to become? My client pointed out that she started noticing how much certain people gossip. And it struck her, they're talking about me as soon as I leave. And she had been sucked into the gossip just as well, until she realized that the person she wanted to become isn't a gossiper, because that's low level energy. And so she was going to start weaning herself away from them. And one of the ways that she did it was when they started gossiping, she would go, yeah, I don't know. I guess that doesn't really matter to me. That's their thing. What else you want to talk about? And she quickly found out that those people couldn't hold much of a conversation if they didn't have gossip to talk about. They couldn't hold up other topics. Yes.
I notice this very much so if you work in if you work with other people, they will have a tendency to kind of make that unity together. And if you go away, literally, like I left a job and then I came back for a weekend or whatever it was, and they were doing the same exact thing. There was no growth, there was no deeper conversation, there was no expansion of different progress of any kind. They were having the same exact conversation. It was very strange. It was like I was watching Groundhog's Day and I'm like, this isn't my movie anymore. Like, it's so weird. And when especially for always be testing, I thought this was so good because I noticed this week, especially because I work from home and I have friends and relationships that have shifted over time because I've now worked from home. So now I've especially through Triple T, I made connections with people here. I've made connections with other groups, and keeping those relationships going via Zoom is definitely a priority for me. And I noticed that some people have a tendency to go in waves, like, oh, you're super much a priority right now, and then they might not hear from them for 3 to 6 months. And that is definitely a red flag for me in just what I like to have in a friendship, what I like to have in a satisfying relationship with people. What do I like, and what am I willing to give, and what am I willing to do and stuff. So it's very, very interesting. And I really think to always be testing, and it doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make me any less important or not important. It's just an evolution. And I was really glad that I was able to see that rather than, oh, they're just using me. Oh, they're just such and such, or I'm not good enough anymore, or something like that. I was much happier with the conclusion that I came to this week.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it reminded me of a saying that not everybody is put into your life to be there permanently. Some are there to simply hold up a mirror for a few days. Some are there to teach you a lesson for a short amount of time. Very few of them are put in place to be there for a complete lifetime. And even those people have different ways of interacting.
There was another thing that you had said. I think you had mentioned about a kick or getting knocked down, or I think I don't know where it came from, but it reminded me of this quote by Rue McClanahan, who is Blanche Devereaux on the Golden Girls, and it's an amazing show. Yes, I watch it as often as I can. But she had said she went for an audition and she didn't get it. And they said that she wasn't pretty enough to be on television. And her mother turned to her and she goes, "Oh, Rue, don't you know that every kick in the pants is a boost?" And I thought that was such a beautiful reframe, and really a nice way to say, you'll see, like, a kick in the pants is a boost upwards. It's like,
Yep.
wow, that was a phenomenal one.
And oftentimes we don't know what we're personally capable of. And sometimes that's the part that scares us the most. You know, like the saying, people aren't afraid of what they can't do, they're more afraid of what they're capable of doing. That's why I love that inspirational video of the football players, where the guy was blindfolded and had the biggest football player put on his back, and he had to do the crawl. And the coach was like, "What? It's only 5 yards. It's only 5 yards. Come on, you're almost there. You're almost there." And all of a sudden, he went 50 yards into, and the guy kept saying, "I can't do it." And he goes, "Yes, you can. You're almost there. You're almost there." Well, if he had his eyes open, would he have made it? He
Like a
didn't.
kid learning to ride a bike. Don't let go, Dad. Don't let go, Dad. Don't let go, Dad. And the dad let go like 20 yards ago, and the kid's pedaling and doesn't realize he's not being held anymore.
Yeah, right. Yep, exactly.
I'm playing Holly today.
Awesome. Anybody else got something? We got 15 minis left. Come on, guys. I know you.
Okay, so on Sunday, this coming Sunday, I'm doing a Zoom class on the title is Faith, the Inverse of Fear. So
Awesome.
just from the title, Faith, Fear, I'm claiming that one can be the inverse of the other. Please discuss. Give me some ideas. I haven't even written the class. No, I'm joking. The class is ready, and I'm ready to deliver it. But it's just kind of the premise that when we're afraid, we kind of freeze up and hesitate or overthink or whatever. And when we have a very strong, deep faith, we're willing to take the leap without looking. And so my argument is that if you can cultivate more faith, you will have less fear in your life, right? But obviously, you're all welcome. Anybody who sees this is welcome. The invitation went out last weekend. If you don't have it, then talk to anyone else here. Everybody, like myself, Fran, Lenora, I think Guada too, all have the invitation, right? So reach out and spread it around. If anybody wants to join us, you're more than welcome. But yeah, how about a quick discussion on faith and fear?
Well, I was so excited that I turned up a week early, Elijah.
I got this notification. Fran has joined your Zoom call. It's not
So I didn't
Sunday,
read
Fran.
the invitation. It was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, these silly time zones. I mean,
Honestly.
I have to admit, Fran, I felt bad because I slept right through getting up early to join you guys because you're all the way over on the other side of the planet, and I missed the call with Richard.
There is a replay. I've sent everybody the link to the replay, so you can enjoy.
Awesome. So back to fear and faith. You guys got any input for Elijah? Any ideas, ahas, epiphanies?
When it comes to faith, Elijah, can you give me an example of what you're thinking of?
So I'm not thinking of religious faith. I'm thinking of a faith in oneself, a deep belief that you can and that you do deserve, and that if this, let's say, thing that you're trying to achieve or manifest or whatever it is something that even if you don't know how, it's within your capability somehow through the assistance of the esoteric things that we're not supposed to talk about,
non-physical,
is possible. And that, you don't necessarily know how, but you're willing to plow forward regardless. Kind of like how the Wright brothers perfected the airplane, when you shouldn't be able to fly people across an ocean. Of course not. It's ridiculous. But somehow, they managed. Using, starting with an idea that required technology that hadn't yet been invented, yet somehow they did it. Right? So, and I don't want to take away from the other people that they carried the research on from. They were also inspired by those who came before them. So, it's just...
Now I love coming from the place where you are so innocent that you don't know you can't do it, and so you do. That's my space. I love that space.
Not everyone is there, though. A lot of people are, not necessarily in today's world. In my observation, many adults have not successfully carried over that innocence of a child into their adult life, right? It's something that's missing.
Well, I think it gets trained out of us. No, right. That's silly thinking. No, you can't do that. No.
It's so ironic that it comes along with this word responsibility, right? That people seem to think that responsibility means that they have to be serious and that they have to, somehow like take charge. But actually, if you just break down the word responsibility into response ability, and you consider it to be your ability to respond, and how many different ways could you respond to a situation? Well, just how far and wide a range do you have in terms of your ability to respond? And that would be very childlike, because children respond in ways that people just do not expect.
Yes.
And it comes out of left field, and it's so charming that we all fall for it in an instant, right? Yet,
And
even though we've all
taking
learned
that,
it, somehow forgot,
taking that innocence to the you can't do that, to then the challenge, I'll show you, yes I can, is a wonderful step too, because some people are strongly motivated by, you can't do it, I'll show you. And that's a really useful resource too. Elijah, what do you got on that?
Well,
I think reactions can be useful, especially like if you're so I've just been through for the second time in my life, I've been through Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I finished it earlier this week.
Great book.
Started it about maybe 3 weeks ago. Finished it earlier this week, and it's the second time. I read it like many years ago, and I'd forgotten a lot of what was in there, and also a lot of what's in there because of my own personal growth. I kind of read it differently now,
Yep.
But there's a lot that you can do in terms of like that kind of suggestion, like I don't think you can do it, to motivate someone. And other times there are things you can do that are less head-butting, but can also motivate people, just showing appreciation for one, TJ, I don't know if you know this, right? But I get up, on Tuesdays, right, when I come home from work, or when I'm done with my whatever I'm doing on Tuesday, right, I sleep in the afternoon so that I can get up at midnight and join this call, right? And if I just want to say that so that and you can understand how much I appreciate that you make this space available for us, right? And I hope, I know I do have faith that it will continue, but I do secretly hope that you just keep this going for a long, long time, and that it grows at a rate that is right for yourself and for us, for the group to remain as awesome as it has been, and probably even improve with time more so. Now, time out. Let's rewind. I am not blowing smoke up his ass.
So much energy blew out his mic.
The same thing.
I just want to thank Lenora for that, that comment about, use the rejections as a kick forward. That was wonderful. Love it. And yes, if you can do that, that is so powerful. And remembering to do that, and remembering that a no now may not be a no next week, or may not be a no later on. If you create a situation where you receive a no, then you've actually planted the seed for whatever it is to grow and gain strength. So never be put off by a no. It may be a no now, but it may not be a no tomorrow. Keep going.
I love that you said that. Elijah, you back online?
I really got to just plug it in.
I love that you said that, Freedom, because I was thinking about that earlier this week, and you just reminded me of it when you had mentioned it. And it's if the universe is always saying yes, and you're not getting it right now, it's not that it's a no, it's a not yet.
Yes.
Am I back?
Are you back?
Yes.
Okay. I lost where I was. What was the last thing I said?
Hey, you weren't blowing smoke.
I'm not blowing smoke up his ass. Listen, I genuinely appreciate TJ, right? If you try to flatter someone, they will see through it a million miles away, right? But when you show genuine appreciation, TJ, how motivated, just, I know it's a very obvious example. It's in your face and I'm telling people what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
Yep.
But honestly, after hearing those words, which I swear I meant, right? Cross my heart, hope to die, stick the needle in my eye, right? How motivated do you feel to keep these classes going after hearing such a thing?
That's why there's 82 episodes of this,
There you go.
because you guys have backed me on this when I literally, honestly, have said this many times. I didn't think I had enough to do 3 episodes. I put it off for 3 years. I wanted to do this 3 years before I started, and came up with every excuse.
If I may,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt.
Rob, please.
If I may, how does that compare to if I were to try and motivate you by saying, I don't think you'll get to 164, let alone the 82. I don't think you can keep it going for just as long again. I don't think you can do it.
You know my answer to that one?
Go on.
Depends on the person and where they're at in their mindset.
Right. So that's kind of my answer to Pran. It's like I've done this as an example to give the answer to Pran, and that yes, there is a value at times to I don't think you can. Oh, you watch me. Yes, I will.
Yes, if you have the right personality,
everybody will respond the same way, right? That some people will, some people won't, and it's just a matter of getting to know who you're talking to, right?
Exactly.
And creating a situation where that can occur, or encouraging that situation, because not everybody does it. And, a slap in the face when you have a slap in the face does take you back. But if you can regroup, this is the wonderful thing about adaptable human beings. If we can do that flip, okay, how can I use this? Rather than, oh, woe is me. If you can get to that mindset, that's really powerful. And it is there, and sometimes we get beaten down more than other times, but being able to pick yourself up and say, how can I use this to an advantage, which feeds into Lenora's comment of, let this kick you forward. Yes. And I think that's the trick. And appreciation very much comes into that. You were talking about appreciation, Elijah, that appreciating what you've got and how much better it can be, and being able to put on the glasses of how this disaster can actually turn into an opportunity, because it really is an ill wind that blows nobody any good.
It's also
to quote Michael Caine as Alfred in the Batman movie, why do we fall, Master Bruce? So as we can learn to pick ourselves up.
That's the PowerPoint.
Yes. It's also a good thing to understand when you're watching your tribe on how people act when they get kicked down. Do they go into victim mentality? Do they go into the what can I learn from this mentality? Do they go into, well, that sucked and I'm going to come out better mentality?
And sometimes your tribe can give you this gift of how you can do it when you are weak and can't do it for yourself. And this is what this group has done for me. Okay, it was a few weeks ago, but when I had my election challenge, and I was really flat for a while, and you guys, you helped me reframe the whole situation who I was in this situation, and it made all the difference. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Lenora. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Savo, who's not here at the moment, but he helped me too. So, well, I mean, he's somebody who knows how to pick himself up, because that was his trade for a while.
Yep. And that's a perfect segue for me to say, you guys are such a blessing to, and it's been proven, not only to me, but to each other and to other people who have commented, who are watching YouTube, who are watching the replays, who make this what it is. Triple T isn't just me. I could have just made this real quick and easy and made some motivational recordings of me sitting in the office and just put them out there. But the interaction, the insights that I get from you guys as a collective make this who it is, what it is. And the reason why we're on session 82. And you guys mean so much to me. And I know you hear it every, I hope you guys hear it many, many, many more times. Time is the only thing I can't give back to you. So for you to take your precious, precious commodity and invest it here to share with everybody on the recording, all the above, means so much to me. And so thank you. And I appreciate you more than I have the vocabulary or the time to express. Unfortunately, you also know that I do my best to keep this at 2 hours so that people know what to expect and I can respect your time. So invite people. Let's build this community so we can help more, get more perspectives and all the above. Yes, Elijah?
And make no such promises. My class will go on until people leave.
Well, we love you, man.
It's a very high arm. I was like, where does that go?
Yeah. So until next week, please take care of yourself. Go out in the world, make it a better place, and be nice to each other. Love you guys.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing the awesome landscape. That's awesome.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Elijah.